Hello and thanks for joining us for another episode of Mid-American Gardener. I'm your host, Tanisha Spain, and today we are at Japan House in Urbana. And now I'm joined with Diana Lau here at Japan House. Introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do here.
Yeah, so hi everyone. My name is Diana Lau. I'm the Education and Engagement Specialist here at Japan House. I help fulfill academic programming, but also run public community events as well through both inside the building and outside in our wonderful gardens.
So if someone is not familiar with Japan House, if this is the first time they've heard of it, because we've been here several times with the cherry trees, how would you explain it to them? What is Japan House?
Yeah, so we're a very unique teaching facility, one of a kind in the United States, and we're part of the University of Illinois within the College of Fine and Applied Arts. And primarily, we use our space, both inside and outside, as a classroom for teaching traditional Japanese arts and culture.
Excellent. And so I know that you guys do tea ceremonies. What other kind of things can folks learn here?
Yeah, folks can also come here to learn about flower arranging, about Japanese gardening, and so we're very much into nature, as you can see.
Yes.
On every week, twice a week, we do have gardening opportunities in the morning. So for anyone who's curious, they can send us an email at japanhouse@illinois.edu and we can send them more information. We also have visiting artists who come and will do more intensive workshops or more intensive like gardening workshops or professional development.
Yes.
So that's another way to get involved, especially if so many people enjoy walking the gardens.
Sure.
And, you know, it takes a very special touch to be able to maintain them. So
Phil Nixon is one of our panelists on the show, and he comes to the annual bonsai. I don't know if it's a festival or whatever, but he makes it a point every year to be here for that. So how do folks learn about what upcoming events are? How do you get engaged and get plugged into things here at the Japan House?
Yeah, well, if you want to learn about us, our history is all listed on our website at japanhouse.illinois.edu. But all of our public events will always be listed on Eventbrite. And so follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, our email newsletter. And anytime we have fun news or upcoming exciting events, we always try to share that as a way for people to be immersed in Japanese arts and culture in Central Illinois.
Excellent. Now, personal question.
Yes.
What's your favorite tree or plant here at the gardens?
That's a hard one.
I always hit people with this one.
Okay, yeah. Okay. I think if I had a favorite tree or plant, I would have to say in our dry rock garden, there has been this small bush that Mr. James Byer planted originally when the garden started. Yeah. And it's been growing strong and he's always maintained it. It's always been pruned. But to me, it's kind of like a slightly larger bonsai tree. And I just love the shape of it. Whenever I see old photos of it, you can definitely see how it's grown compared to today. And I just feel like it's kind of like a wise old tree now, even though it's maybe like 25-ish years old. And I think that's my favorite tree. Every day I look at it through the windows and I'm like,
awesome.
It's doing
Great
good.
Answer. And you're going to have people now coming out looking for
that one specific tree.
Diana, thank you so much for talking to us. I really appreciate it. And we hope people come out here and get more involved and attend some of the events here.
Yes, thank you.
We've got lots to cover, so we're going to jump in with intros and get started. So John, way down at the end, we'll start with you.
I am John Bodensteiner. I'm a Vermilion County Master Gardener, and I brought some interesting plants today that we'll talk about here in a few minutes.
Excellent. Martie?
Hello, I'm Martie Alanga, semi-retired landscape gardener, specializing in the home garden, smaller stuff.
Trees and shrubs, too.
Trees and shrubs and perennials.
Yes.
No tomatoes. You got to talk to this guy for tomatoes.
All right, Miss Kay.
Hi, I'm Kay Carnes. I'm a Champaign County Master Gardener and a lover of herbs and vegetables and all sorts of things.
Kay is our resident herb lady. The first woman who taught me don't store your herbs above the oven. I didn't know that my whole life. Oh, okay. So John, you brought the whole greenhouse with you.
I brought a few things. They were all just this is called starfish cactus. It's a Wakiva foliage cactus, and you can see why they call it the starfish. You know, if you open this up, It's just looks like a starfish.
Now we have to talk about the bugs because they're loving it.
The flies are
It's doing its job though, right?
But this one here, I went up and I smelled it, and I don't smell very much on that. This one, however, I went up to put my nose up to it, and it is not pleasant.
So it wants to attract those flies.
Yes,
That's the
is
goal.
how, these are probably dead meat type
Okay.
attracting, you know, that they look for that scent. Kind of like, which leads right into my pawpaws, which is also a fly pollinated plant. And right now pawpaws are starting to fall. And now is the time to pick them. You have to kind of watch. I let them drop usually, unless they are looking like this. Then I pick them, because the varmints are going to look for it, and they are going to get them before you do. I bring them in a little bit green like this and let them sit on the counter, and then
so they'll ripen up for you
process
on
them,
the
yeah.
counter. Excellent. What are some things that you do with pawpaws? I know we've talked about them before.
I like to eat them just like that, or make instead of banana, I use pawpaw and make banana or pawpaw bread, or pawpaw pudding.
Pawpaw pudding. We'll have to get Taylor on that. Make
They're
us
native.
some pawpaw pudding.
Yes,
They're
that's
native.
it is the largest native in the United States, the largest native fruit in North America.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay.
These smell so bad that the flies don't even care about the pawpaws.
No, they don't even want it.
No,
All right, Martie,
no.
question for you.
Yeah.
This is about peonies. This is from Sue Detheridge. She says, I've got a question about peonies. I've always cut the foliage back around October each year. However, the mature peonies at my home have developed a white powdery coating, so bad it looks like they were spray painted. She said she cut them back in August for fear that it would spread down to the unaffected ones. So she kind of wants to know, does she expect this next year? Does she need to rip them out? Can you treat it? And what is it?
Okay. It's powdery mildew. That's the white stuff. It's a fungus, and it occurs when it's warm and damp outside. And if it ain't been warm and damp in
Check and
Illinois,
check.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, it has.
There's a
Powdery
short
mildew-
time
Oh
span.
my
when-
gosh, yeah.
Very short.
It also forms on a lot of other plants, not just peonies. You can either spray them for fungus, for powdery mildew, or a lot of people just mow them off. I don't do that. I happen to have mine in just the right spot where they don't seem to get mildew or anything else on them. I just put them there.
You
'cause
must
it
have
was
some
sunny.
good air circulation.
It is there. It's a little bit of a slope, and it's very sunny all day. So,
So
but,
if you get that one season, can you expect to be battling it each summer?
if you see it showing up the next season, I would treat it early, and it'll start small. It'll start like little spots on the leaves, but eventually the spots all fill in.
Gotcha.
And so when you first see it, apply a fungicide. And I mean, even milk in water, like 1 part milk to 6 or 7 parts water, will do, because the calcium raises the pH and the fungus doesn't like it, so it dies. But if it rains, you have to apply it again. So
And that's a spray.
it's
that
just
you're
in a
making.
squirt bottle you
Yeah.
buy,
Okay.
like a quart.
So not the end of the world.
No,
but
no,
she's
no.
definitely got something to deal with.
And now
And
is the time,
when-
if you've got peonies, if you're not happy where they are, now is the time to move them
Yeah,
Oh.
Yeah. you could
and follow
you could-
the instructions.
Yeah.
Don't plant them too deep.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, they can barely. I mean, like if this were a peony corm, you put it here, it looked much like an iris, and you put it like an inch below,
Yep.
maybe 2, no more, and irises go even
Higher.
more shallow. Also, with the peonies, when you cut them down, make sure you remove every possible leaf you can. Don't leave any on the ground, because the mildew will overwinter then. You'll help it survive in that spot.
Okay. So treat it or
Yeah.
relocate it.
Yeah.
All right.
But it's not, I mean, even if it kills the tops on the peonies, they'll come back.
This late of the season, it's
Yeah.
not going to affect the,
Nah, it's not
the
a big deal.
hardiness of the plant.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, Kay.
Okay,
We are
so-
on to you.
I have some Mexican things here. These are tomatillos, and you can see they're green. They're
See?
nightshade, but they're not related to tomatoes. They're really excellent for salsa, but most people will cook them a little bit and then I grind them up in like a food processor.
Okay.
Not real fine, but it's just really small.
How would you describe the flavor?
They're kind of lemony, a little. They have their own unique flavor.
Okay.
Which is how, of course, you would take this husk off. And
They look like a little mater, don't they?
They do look like
a little,
tomatoes.
Little tomato.
yeah.
And John, I can't help but notice the similarity between those and the way ground cherries look.
And
Yeah.
they are the other is called a husk tomato. The ground cherries.
Yeah, this is basically a ground cherry.
Yeah.
Ah,
type.
okay. Did this plant do really well this year?
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
I've got two. They were both volunteers,
Oh,
and they're huge, but the fruit isn't as big as it normally
See,
is.
we had fruit that was this big this
oh
year.
my gosh.
They were.
But
That
John,
was.
it's you.
Yeah,
The rest of us,
ours were in the
we can't do
weeds and
But for
they
volunteers,
didn't get
Oh,
good.
yeah.
those
Yeah,
are good-looking
they
tomatoes.
could do
for
whatever they
sure.
want.
Hardy.
Yeah.
Hardy.
Okay.
The strongest sperm, you know. It gets there.
That's the winner.
I'm just saying.
But it's
All right.
it's kind of a different taste, but they grind them up and put things like garlic or onion or something like that in, and you can also put. I brought this. This is Mexican oregano. It's not actually a member of the oregano family, so I'm not sure where it got its name, and it's kind of got an unusual flavor to it. It's also a little lip citrusy,
Okay.
but
Do you use that in like soups or?
I got a stardom, and it was about this big, and I've got this huge plant now. It's really grown huge, and I just cut the leaves off and dry them. They dry really well, and
Yeah.
it's kind of, I won't say an acquired taste, but it's a different
What
taste.
dishes do you use? this in?
With the
same,
salsa,
okay. So we're
yeah,
keeping it on
or
theme
just,
here.
Cooking, with vegetables or something like that.
So these would be what you'd use in salsa verde, in green
You
salsa.
can, yeah.
I don't
Gotcha.
know. He knows.
It has
I
a
know
little
he
bit of
knows.
heat to it too.
Oh,
This
Well,
does
The
Not
oregano does.
Oh,
oregano.
okay.
Not really, but
White.
it's a tender perennial, so
Yeah.
you either have to harvest the whole thing or bring it in.
Gotcha. Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Kay.
Mhm.
All right, John, we are back to you.
Okay, we kind of showed this, but now is the time. Another plant that is time to move. If you haven't done it in 5 or 6 years, now is the time to move your irises. Whether this is a smaller iris, but your beaded iris, all your irises, and they should be moved or checked every 5 to 7 years. Right now, I just dug these up, and as you can see, on these two, you can see all the little pinholes. Those are iris borers. They will eventually destroy they won't flower as well. And so what I do is I usually cut it off, or if I'm out there in the garden, and I'll usually move the bed, because once there's borers in the ground, you should move it if you
Oh.
find them. But you can just cut it off, and I would get a clean knife in between each cut, and then just break it off, discard this, just throw it away. And this, I know there's no holes in it, so it should be okay. And I would usually let this dry for about a day, just like this, so it calluses off. And then I've got little handles here. I usually cut them like little,
Convenient
so I
handle.
know where they're
They're
at.
built in.
And you don't want to, like Kay was saying, it's like peonies. You don't plant them too deep. You want almost a third of this showing, or even up to a half. And you leave the roots on. They'll do fine. And water them in, and then you'll have beautiful irises in the next year.
I have a spot in my yard where those are really growing strong, but the center is looking barren and exposed. So does that mean I need to thin them, move them?
I would double check. You might have some iris. There may have been some
Borer.
borers in there
Okay.
that was really bad. I would go outside that ring where you have nothing and check the underneath. They'll always be on the underside. You can't just look at them in the ground.
Okay.
And because I looked at all these and I said, oh, I don't have any. Then I dug up and
Terrible.
they all have it.
Surprise.
Yeah,
So,
not happy. Surprise.
but yeah, now's the time to move your irises if you want to. Now's the time to move your peonies. Now's the time to divide your hostas. Now is a good time to, if you have any perennials, now is a good time to do it. We've still got enough fall left where the ground won't freeze, so the roots can get situated. And the one thing, like right now, it's terribly dry, so you need, once you move them, make sure you keep them watered in well. Mulch them, yeah, that would be a good thing. I go back to my starfish. I didn't know, I forgot to actually show this one. This one here isn't opened yet, but this is the stinky one.
It was closed tight
It was
when you
closed
first
tight
got
when I
here,
got
and
here.
it's already starting to show.
I had this at Schlarman, and the kids were, were wondering when it was going to open. I said, well, maybe by the time I get back, it'll be partially open.
That's the stinky one, huh?
That one opened up last night after I brought it in. And so they got to see that one.
Very cool. I bet that is cool for the students to see.
Oh,
Yeah.
Martie, question for you.
Yes.
And this is just off the cuff because we were talking about hosta. I wanting to thin some out where right by my front porch because they're just all over the sidewalk. So chop it down first before I...
The hosta?
Yes. What would you do if you were going to thin it out?
If it's if it's a large leaved
It's
hosta,
huge.
okay, then I would probably cut it back to, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 inches for the top, just so when the top sticks out, you can tell where it was, so you don't plant something else.
Gotcha.
There, and then a sharp spade. Just, I mean, if you have a nice sharp spade and a small one, especially like a perennial dividing, they're a little bit smaller, go down where you'll, through the crown, and just get the piece out that you want. Put it back in. Also, I was going to say about the iris. If you have some iris and you forgot what color they are, okay, in the spring when they bloom, you can take a Sharpie and write on the leaf. What a great idea. Isn't that cool?
It is.
Wow.
You can
That's a
write
great
right on there. It will stay. It's weatherproof. And then you're like, oh, yeah, those are the yellow and white ones.
Oh,
That's
a
so
great
helpful.
idea.
I know.
So helpful.
They're all
Did
green.
you think of that?
No, I stole it. No, it was such a good
Wow.
idea, though.
That would be
Just a
pretty
great
area.
idea.
It's okay. I wanted to ask you.
Yes.
You love tomatoes.
Yes.
We had someone write in and ask about blossom end rot.
Uh-huh.
Have you ever had to deal with that? And if you did, how did you get rid of it, or how did you beat it? Or are you just that lucky that you've never had to fight it?
I guess I'm either lucky or else they died.
Okay.
It's been a
Survival
while
of the
since I've
fittest.
I've
dealt
heard
with
we
that,
were
but
talking about so many things, so I just didn't know if in your experience growing tomatoes that
I think anybody that grows a number of tomatoes is going to have that.
that's just normal.
Yeah. And
You're going to get...
nothing to do with the calcium. It's a lack of calcium in the fruit. It has nothing to do with the calcium that's in the soil.
Yeah.
It has to do with the water to able to absorb that calcium and the plant to absorb that calcium.
Gotcha.
And so watering is the main thing. And water even 24 hours where it can't absorb calcium, you have a chance of getting blossom end rot. So what I like to do is take a gallon jug and poke a tiny little hole in it, fill it with water, and depending on how big it is, do you want one drop? Put the lid on it. It'll slow the drops.
And just let it
It'll
drip.
water that plant for 24 hours at least.
Yeah.
And that's the best way to keep a constant.
And that's low maintenance too. We
Oh,
are
gosh,
all
yeah.
about low
Oh, yeah.
maintenance
Oh,
gardening.
yeah. Yes.
That's awesome. You got some cool snake plants.
Yes, I brought the snake plant before, and a friend of
The old
mine who has
standard.
since passed away asked me to come over before he did, and he gave me these two different, and I've got about 10 of these now I've propagated.
They're so cool.
And it's a blonde. I'm not sure that these are going to be quite as hardy. One reason, there's not as much chlorophyll in this. And this one here has a little bit more chlorophyll in it because it still has the green stripes.
There's so many
This one
variations. of them.
here
So
I
pretty.
know.
has no chlorophyll.
Oh wow.
Or very
Wow.
little.
Just down at the base. Wow.
Yeah. So
Now where do you keep that? Can that be in the sun?
I keep it, it's in the greenhouse. I keep it in the sun,
And it doesn't
and
burn.
it doesn't burn.
Wow.
But I keep it well watered. That's the thing with
Gotcha.
Sansevieria. This is in the Sansevieria, and this is the one they're looking at taking to Mars, because
You heard it here, folks.
Didn't know that.
they are
You heard
very
it
low
here first.
maintenance. You only have to water them every 4 weeks, and they absorb toxins like benzene, toluene, all the bad toxins that are in the air, and absorb carbon dioxide, and then at night put off oxygen.
They exude
So
oxygen, sure.
it's one of those things that they're looking at we finally get to Mars, they're looking at some plants because we're going to be airtight there. So, and you know that there's always in the plastics in the type of structures we have, there's always some kind of a gas being out, and these will absorb that.
Very cool. We learned a little science today.
I saw Total Recall. There's no air.
All right, last question, and this one's going to Martie.
Okay.
We've got Kathy Barrett wants to know how to overwinter her strawberries that are in pots.
Yeah, to elaborate a little, they're
So
in
she
plastic
says, can strawberry,
pots.
yes, can they survive in plastic hanging baskets in the winter in zone 5, but now we're 6A?
Yeah.
If I put the pot on the ground with southern exposure,
No.
or should I put them in the garage?
They need to be in the garage.
In
they
the garage.
absolutely do. Yeah.
Okay.
And even on a wall in the garage, like a south wall in the garage, because strawberries are hardy in the ground, but not in 5. You can't get them to overwinter very well. You'll be disappointed. So,
Okay.
and don't water them. Just bring them in, let them dry down.
Okay.
You know, put them on a shelf
And
somewhere,
just forget it.
and then water them in the spring. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
All right, we've got about 2 minutes left. John, can we talk about that ginger? Because
Yes.
I didn't know that
Yes,
was ginger.
indeed.
This is a different form of a ginger, and
It's beautiful.
it's just started to bloom on me. So the kids
That's a pretty
were looking
color.
at it, and they said, "What are those buds?" And then
Look at this.
the next day, it was blooming. It's got a nice red stripe
That
down.
is
Beautiful.
really pretty.
It is a beautiful, even when it isn't flowering, it's a nice
It is. It's
form,
got a
and
nice
it has
purple
the little
color.
roots down below too. That
I was going to say, that's like
I've
culinary
never
ginger?
eaten them.
I was
so.
just going to ask that.
Yeah.
If that's,
So
It's
I'm
like
gonna,
culinary
I will
ginger,
have
yeah.
to, once it gets a little bit bigger, I will venture in and just see. But
Oh,
That's
it looks
really
like
cool.
an orchid.
But
it's
it's-
just beautiful.
it looks tropical.
Very.
almost. You know, that's a very
Very,
pretty
really,
plant.
I
really
love that
nice.
flower.
And the gnats and other insects and flies are loving
Oh,
your other
they're-
one too.
that starfish,
Good luck getting that home.
it's going to go in the back of the truck. It's not going in the cab with me.
All right, guys,
He
we're
can
out
be
of time.
taught.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for watching. If you've got questions for our panelists, you can send them in to us at yourgarden@gmail.com, and we will see you next time. Good night.